Good evening, Liebchens. Here's another video from Salem Suicide. And tonight I want to talk about the relationship between transsexuals and the rest of society. And so I thought I'd call this little video Transsexuals and Rednecks. Now, I've worked with, associate with, transition right in front of the so-called rednecks, you know, the rough and tumble crowd, the working men, that sort of thing. And they're fine with transsexuals in their midst, or to put another way and to speak very accurately, they don't care, okay? They've never said a thing about my transition, and they haven't ever expressed an opinion, even speaking in the abstract. You know, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Whatever. The same thing with an overwhelming number of young people, you know, like 25 years old and younger, you know, they seem to feel the same way. They're either supportive or they don't have an opinion. At least they don't talk about their opinion, you know. And I think that's really something, you know. You've got the next generation coming up, and you've got the quote-unquote rednecks, you know, the hard characters, if you will. In fact, it even goes further than that. Bikers, Native Americans, musicians, artists, you know, fringe sorts, people on the outskirts of society, that sort of thing, they have the same stance. They understand, they tolerate, or they don't say a thing at all, okay? Now, Robert Walser, who's a musicologist, whatever that is, with the University of California in Los Angeles, he has a number of opinions on this matter, and he expressed this opinion in relation to glam metal, but I think it also applies to transsexuals and transition and everything else too. And he says that a lot of the basic assumptions that we make about what is male and what is female go out the window. And glam metal, you know, outfits like Motley Crue and Poison and Cinderella and so forth, back in the late 1980s, you know, the bands that made heavy metal music the most popular music in the world at the time, they gender bend a lot. You know, they would dress very feminine, you know, the big hair. That's where the big hair comes from in glam metal. Makeup, women's clothes, that sort of thing. And you know, the basic assumptions that were made, you know, about what is male and what is female, the glam metal bands took apart, okay? And you can say the same sort of thing about the presence of LGBT individuals, especially transsexual and transgender individuals in society today. The rednecks, the young people, they have their concept of male and female in their minds already, or else they don't care. But one way or the other, they're the tolerant ones. The actual most intolerant groups that I've come across are the sort of middle-aged professionals, you know, the people that, now it's 2014 when I make this movie, August of 2014, so it's like the groups that would be kind of in middle age, you know, late 40s, 50s, maybe early 60s today, the so-called boomers, some of them anyway, they're the most intolerant ones, right? You know, they have their viewpoints. They think certain things, they feel certain ways, and they don't want any part of anything, or at least their behavior says, they don't want any part of anything that is at least a little bit sort of out of the mainstream, if you will, you know, and yet they want to present themselves as sort of salt of the earth sorts, to whom the only thing that matters is the effort you expend and everything else. You know, what's that all about? But I can assure you, my fellow travelers, you other transsexuals out there, this sort of thing, male to female transsexual, that rednecks, the so-called rednecks anyway, the working sorts, that sort of thing, they have been very, I don't want to use words accepting, because that's putting words in their mouth, but they haven't said or done anything intolerant, let's say. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They may have less than pleasant viewpoints, but they haven't acted upon them, okay? Same thing for a lot of young people, high school age people, young adults, that sort of thing. By their behavior, it appears they don't care, you know. The same thing with bikers and Native Americans and artists and musicians and everything else. It seems to only be that one group, you know, the older professional sorts, you know, the sort of the backbone of society, if you will. I don't know why that is, you know. So maybe a hardcore academic like Robert Walser should invest some time in trying to figure out why that is, because those are also the groups that were most negatively disposed towards fringe sorts of music like heavy metal music. So I think that middle-aged professional group is the big normalizing group in society. You know, they're the arch conservative elements, the discriminating elements, the prejudiced elements. It's worth some thought anyway. But I just wanted to share my experience with you, the viewer, and say, don't worry about the rednecks, don't worry about the kids so much, you know, peer pressure, kids heckling you in the schoolyard, that sort of thing. They're not the ones to worry about as far as the relationship that a transsexual has with society, okay? Be at rest. It's the normalizing conservative element, the middle-aged professionals, that you have to worry about. So, until next time, kids, this is Salem Suicide signing off.